Hello and welcome to JROCK'S Babylon. I am your host for tonight, Jason J. Rock Houston. Now, the big news that broke early this morning was that my This Is Metal co-host, Tom Collier, who's been doing the show with me for 2 years now, we hit the 2 year anniversary August 1st of this year. And as you read today when Tom put out a statement, he has made the decision, first of all, to leave the This Is Metal show. I will let Tom's statement speak for itself, but I will go on record saying that Tom is just a super busy guy, and he has a lot of other things that he's planning to do. We got a lot of things, coming our way, as they say. But he was very busy with his band Held Hostage. He's constantly playing live with the band, a couple times a year, and there's a huge demand for Held Hostage. He's also currently working on a new Held Hostage album, which I understand is going to come out early next year in 2026. What a way to kick off the new year, right after the holidays. So way to go, Tom. I will go on the record saying that I just love doing the show with Tom, and we loved everybody that tuned into the show and supported the show over the last 2 years. We could not have done it without you. Obviously, the show would not have been successful without all our wonderful viewers, and we had some regular viewers that tuned in regularly, and we know who those people are. And too many names, but I'll go on and make a list of some of these people. Top of the list: Carol A. Deming, John Parker, Scott Braun, Ben Hicks. These are just a few of the people that every time we post a show, not only would they leave comments, but they would share our show with on their sites, and we were very grateful for that. So to those people and anybody else who tune into the show, we thank you. I got to share with you a little bit about the history of the This Is Metal show. First of all, the show probably dates back about 5 years ago, when I started it with the original host, Joe Lawson. And originally, it was a very different type of show. It was much more to what I would call a radio broadcast. About once a week, me and Joe would get together. We do the show, and in the very early days of the show, we did it the old school way. We talk over our cell phones, and I recorded on my digital recorder, and then we download it into in my computer, and I send it to the guy to edit the show. And we'd have a new show every week. And generally we talk about, hey, let's pick a band that we think deserves some attention. We did shows on, everything from Motley Crue to Sabotage. We even had one episode where we talked about the Axemen of Ozzy. And then we talked about Ronnie James Dio, but instead of just talking about how much we love Dio, we looked at the early years of his career. Stuff like Elf, it doesn't maybe even really get a serious look. So that was what the initial concept of the show was. Now eventually, we came to the point where we wanted to see if we could turn the show into what Joe and I always envisioned this to be. A show where we could have guests from our favorite bands and get a chance to interview some of our favorite musicians. And then early on, like I would say around 2020, well, a little after, I would say, maybe closer to 2023, we started making that transition, shooting the shows onto Zoom. And so it went from being a show where you listen to us to a show where you're watching us. Now, once we made that transition, the show turned into a different animal. And sadly, as we were making the transition, Joe Lawson did about 8 of these shows with us. And then he announced that has other things going on in his life, in his personal life, he could no longer commit to doing the show every week. So This Is Metal was just getting to the point where we'd always dreamed we could take it. And I was not ready to give up on the show just yet and just, okay, well, Joe's leaving, so we're going to stop doing the show. And Joe gave me his full blessing, not that I really needed it, but he said, yeah, go on. And I have no issues with you guys continuing on the show, getting a new host. Well, I had a couple people in mind, and I'm going to share some things that you may or may not know. Now, I had about 3 people immediately came to mind. Now, one of the first people I contacted, I thought, when I think of metal, I think of this person. They kind of have a real metal image and a metal career, and they're pretty popular in the metal community. But one person I reached out to was Sean Peck. I didn't really know that he'd do it, but I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. I've interviewed Sean many times over years. He's been nothing but friendly, but he gave me a quick response. Says, "Hey man, I'm touched that you even thought of me. Thank you for that, but I just cannot commit to doing a show like that. I'm busy with all my bands. And of course, he has Death Dealer, Cage, the Three Tremors, and so all these things he's involved with, and now he's involved with comic book stuff. Um, so he turned it down. The next person I reached out to was Tom Collier, who ended up getting the gig as a new co-host of the This Is Metal show. And Tom didn't hesitate. And here's a funny thing. Okay, he said yes right away. He didn't even have to think about it. I thought, okay, the search for a new co-host is over. And from the minute we did the first show, the chemistry that existed between me and Tom, it was just magical. It was immediate. We didn't have to fake it. And people may or may not believe this, but at the time when I reached out to Tom, he was just launching Fire Rock Music Group, the record label that he's the president of. And I knew nothing about that until after I had already asked him to become a new co-host of This Is Metal show. And we had a lot of fun doing it. Now, when Tom put his announcement out today, people were asking, hey, what is the future of the This Is Metal show? So that's part of the reason I'm putting out my statement now, and I'm putting out this video. I want to let everybody know exactly what the future of the show is. Now, initially, Tom had informed me and the owner of Chaotic Risk that he sent in an email about, I'm going to say about 3 weeks ago, we got an email early one morning explaining why he thanked us for the opportunity of being able to be the co-host for the This Is Metal show for the last 2 years, told us how much he enjoyed it, and he just said that basically he was going to have to step away from his duties at the show because he was very busy at the record label and was held hostage and a lot of other things that he's currently working on. And we understood that. No hard feelings. So immediately I talked to Tom about this. And again, not that I had to, but just out of courtesy for Tom, he's been a great friend to me, great loyal guy. I mean, and so I talked to Tom about my feelings about him leaving, but I did understand. And so the initial thought was, hey, you guys should, continue on with the This Is Metal show. I don't want to see it stop. You guys find another host. That was my initial hope, my initial feeling. But things, in the last, I'd say the last year has really kind of changed. Not between me and Tom. Tom is a super great guy, and I can't tell you enough how much I really enjoy doing the show with him. The problem came in. I don't really. I'm going to try to keep this as professional as I can. And I have to find that balance of remaining professional and yet being honest with the audience. Okay, for the last year, I'd say since the beginning of 2025, after I'd been the face and the voice of Chaotic Risk for 17 years, the attitude between the owner of Chaotic Risk and myself, kind of things started to change. All of a sudden, there was a demand for me to sign a contract of what I could and couldn't do, and things that I could be fired for. I went ahead and signed this initial contract only because we were in serious talks at the time of really trying to take the This Is Metal show to the next level because it had been so successful. Okay. And so again, my intention, even once I learned that Tom had was walking away from his show because he had other things that he had to had to take care of or that he was committed to. My original intention was to continue on with the show and find a new host. Now, again, not really wanting to get into too much of a business because I don't want to bore anybody with that. I do have to tell you that the powers that be, again, I'm not going to mention this person by name because I believe if anybody wants to know um, who the owner of Catacris is, they can search that information out. But initially, I was told by this person, well, I don't know, I don't know, Jason. We'll think about getting a replacement for Tom, but you can send me a list of potential people that you think might be a good replacement, but I'm going to have to approve it. And there were all these conditions, and then finally there was a demand for me to sign another contract, and I just said, hey, I already signed your contract. The one I signed is binding, and you know what? I'm not going to sign another contract. And I should also note that after working with this person for 17 years, I don't know if I want to even use the word working because, I did it out of the love of my love for music and stuff. That was what I originally got into this for the fun of it. I enjoyed talking to the musicians and interviewing the bands that we had on the show. And it was a lot of fun. And I will go on record and say for 15 of the 17 years, well, no, I'll say for 16 of the 17 years, it was really a lot of fun. There were no issues until just this last year. And it got to a point where it was no longer fun. And basically when I refused to sign another second contract after working together for 17 years, I was basically told, oh, you are what is referred to as an independent contractor. Okay. Again, it was no longer fun. And just coincidentally, on the day that Tom sent us that email that he decided he was leaving the show, this other individual told me, well, okay, since you're refusing to sign the contract and you talk to a lawyer, you're fired. Okay, that's the end of that. So from what I've been able to gather, while this individual would be able to continue on with the This Is Metal show and find two new hosts, even after all this, because I'm very proud of the success the show became. And in all modesty, it is a show that I developed and created. I came up with the name. The way things work in the music business, so this individual would have every right to carry on with the This Is Metal show and find two new hosts, and neither Tom or I would have an issue with that. In fact, we encouraged it, but from what we're being told that the This Is Metal show is pretty much just going to die. So again, I'm trying to keep as professional as I can. Want to let the folks know because I really love the viewers and the audience, and we would not be what we were without any of you. So I know that you all enjoyed tuning into the show as much as me and Tom enjoyed recording each and every episode. Now let's talk about, and while we're on camera here, let's talk about and celebrate the This Is Metal show. Again, it started out as a radio podcast. Me and the original host, Joe Lawson, we'd always dreamed that it would turn into a show where we could interview people. And, if you go back to the very beginnings of the This Is Metal show, not only was it a radio podcast, but for whatever reason, again, technology over the course of the last 17 years has changed very much. When I first got into doing this, you know what? We were doing email type of interviews, okay? Then eventually along the way, it comes to where everybody's doing these audio type of interviews where I'd have to not only book the bands and book the shows, but I'd have to, on my own personal time, call these people, do the interviews over phone. I had to get my digital recorder and make sure I recorded these things properly, send them off to be posted. Excuse me, but I'm getting a little passionate here, but because I really love talking about the This Is Metal show. And then eventually about 2023, when everybody started using Zoom and it became a very big thing, I reached out to Joe Lawson. Like I said, hey, let's try to make our dream come true. And he did about 8 shows before he left, like I said. And then Tom came on board and the show just blew up. But what I was going to say, not only did it start out as a show is more like a radio podcast, but when we started the show, we didn't even have a logo. And I will give credit where credit is due. The one that I'm referring to is the owner of Catacris, the powers that be, as you say. He designed the logo, and I think once we had a logo, I love that logo, a very beautiful logo. I will say that, and I think once the show had a logo, people started to take it serious, and each show we did it got better and better. And Tom and I have had conversations, and we're in agreement with this. There was not a single bad show, and that's not my ego or anything talking. It's just that each time we did a show, me and him had so much fun doing it that each episode would just get better and better. And I never had anybody got any negative feedback from anybody regarding the show. We got nothing but positive feedback. That's why we continue to do it. And another thing that made the show so much fun were the guest. As much as Tom and me being the talent, the on-camera guys that were there to try to entertain you. I can tell you, every time we did an episode, me and Tom just let it rip. We bounced. The chemistry is there. There's no denying. We bounced off of each other. One guy would say something, the other guy would react, and timing. It was very beautiful. But the guests were also a key factor because we had everybody from recently Vinny Peace, of course, from Dio, Black Sabbath, Sabbath Nights, Last in Line, all these other things he's been involved with over years. He was very fun to talk to. And we also interviewed Carmine Apiece. We had him on the show. I wish we could have had the two brothers on together. That would have been fun. Interviewed folks like Jim Crane. Now, in fact, last time we interviewed Vinny recently, Jim was coming on with him, and Vinny started joking because about Jim that he was a ghost of the interview because he was having internet connection issues with his connection, and eventually we lost Jim, and he wasn't part of a interview for that reason alone. But it gave us something to talk about, and then we also had episodes. We did where we had the Roman Hillbilly. And again, people will watch an episode like that and say, what do you have a guy like that on? You might expect them to say that because, that's not very metal, but he was one of the best guests we ever had for that very reason. He had a unique story. So even though it was called This Is Metal, that's another thing I enjoyed about the show, that we could pretty much interview whoever we wanted, as long as we could pretty much come up with any legit reason for it. It just is something as simple as, hey, Roman Hillbilly, let's find out more about this guy. Who is he? He has a fun, interesting story. People love checking that out. Another great episode we did recently this year was with Grand Funk Railroad legend Mark Farner. That was a real fun episode, and me and Tom, before we even did the interview, when I told him, hey, I just booked Mark Farner to come on the show. Oh man, that I love Grand Funk, man. I love it. This is going to be so much a fun interview. So for us, just the anticipation of talking to Mark was already there. And then once we got the chance to actually sit down and speak with him, I got to tell you, Mark Farner is one of those guys. Couldn't be a nicer guy. We also had people like the Dictators. Now I've interviewed like Ross the Boss and Albert Bouchard, individually many times over the years, super nice guys. It was fun to have Albert and Ross come in, and the bass player come in from the Dictators and talk about the new Dictators album that came out earlier this year. It's another fun interview because the guys were just bouncing off of each other, and individually, Ross the Boss and Albert Bouchard are super talented guys, and I just such nice guys to talk about. Carl Kennedy, he's another guy I've interviewed many times over the years. We had him on This Is Metal show. I think at least 2 or 3 times now. The last time he came on by himself talking about his book that he was out there promoting at the time, a book about his life. So that was fun. Then we had him come on with the entire Rods band. And anytime you have the entire band come on, that's really a lot of fun because you get to talk to each guy. And now David Rock Feinstein, he was part of the interview. Obviously, he's the front man and the lead singer of the Rods. Anybody who doesn't know, he was also famously related to Ronnie James Dio. They were cousins and they were in the band Elf together. Now, typically, you'll see Carl Kennedy go out and do press and PR and interviews for Varaz. I mean, even though Dave is the front man, he doesn't do a truckload of interviews. And so anytime you can get him to take part in an interview, it's pretty special because he doesn't do a whole lot of them. Not for any other reason than, from what I understand, he's just more comfortable letting Carl be the spokesperson for the band. You know, Carl seems to enjoy it more. But you know, we talked to all the guys in the Rods, and David was great to talk to. He opened up, and the reason that we were able to do this was, again, because Tom is very close with those guys, especially Carl Kennedy. He's known for many years, and they're very good friends. And so Carl said, "Sure, I can get the whole band to come in," and we appreciated that. So many of these episodes, and then recently we also, not your atypical guest you'd expect to have on the This Is Metal show. We had two of the guys from The Artist and the Astronaut, which is a great documentary that Fire Rock Music Group is putting out on DVD. I believe it's September 19th. You go to Amazon and pre-order it. It's a great documentary about an astronaut, famous NASA astronaut who's sadly no longer with us. But we got a chance to talk to the producer and the musician that was also involved with the writing of the soundtrack. And so that was another fun interview we got to do. Also, because of Tom's being the president of Fire Rock Music Group, we also got to have guests like Nick Z. Marino. Now, Nick Z. Marino is a great guest for the simple fact that he is also the lead singer of Yngwie Malmsteen's band and the keyboard player in Yngwie's band for the last 20 years. And he's got his own NZM band, Nick Z. Marino Band, signed to Fire Rock. So we had Nick come on, I'm going to say like at least different times, talking about his solo career. And we got a little to talking about his work with Yngwie, but we mostly focused on his solo band, NZM Band. And Nick Z. Marino is just a huge talent. I love the fact we were able to have him come on the show and expose his talent. That is the reason we did the show. Now, I am sorry that things had to end the way they did. That's just kind of, as they say, how sometimes life throws us a curveball. But we had fun doing it, me and Tom, and I would rather celebrate the show than sit here bad-mouthing anybody, because that's not what this is about. I really had a great time doing the show, and I hate to see it go, but I will tell you now. I also got, I'm able to announce that with the end of the This Is Metal show, that's why I decided to launch my JROCK'S Babylon. That's what you see in the background. I launched a channel of my own where I will be interviewing bands. So far, we've got about 8 or 9 interviews up, I believe. Some other shows we've launched, and more is on the way. I'm about continue on what we started with the This Is Metal show and taking it to the next level. I'm not about stopping. I'm about the future. The This Is Metal show is the past, but as far as I'm concerned, it deserves to be celebrated. We want to thank the people again for tuning in and making it the success it was. Again, it's the end of an era, folks, but it's also the beginning of a new era. Tom has shared with me that he's launched a new show called Fire Rock Talk, and I will be one of his alternating co-hosts that will be on the new show. I'm told that the first couple episodes are to be shot in the next about the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we will keep you posted on that. So that is what we're working on now. And again, I'm sorry that we could not continue on with the This Is Metal show, but Tom and I are we love so much working together that's why when he reached out to me and asked me would I like to be part of a Fire Rock Talk show as one of the co-hosts, I without hesitation, just like when I reached out to him, hey Tom, you want to be the new host of the This Is Metal show? No hesitation on my part, because I think me and Tom are a winning combination. We proved that with the This Is Metal show. And again, this is all about taking this to the next level. And we had so much fun doing This Is Metal. I have no doubt the new show is going to be just as successful. And we urge you all to continue to follow Tom and I, and you will start seeing announcements about the new show. So take care, and thank you for making the This Is Metal show the success that it became. We could not have done it without you. Take care, my friends. I'll be seeing you again real soon. Bye for now.